In this iRacing video, I use my C license just to see if I can in the advanced Mazda MX-5 Cup Series, and all from an older gamer's perspective. It occurred to me the other day that one of the things I've never done in iRacing is race a complete series. I've dipped in and out of these different cups and challenges and whatnots all the time, and that's basically because I sometimes, to be frank, I get a bit bored with some of the cars that I'm racing, so I switch to something else, and that's fine. But I've never actually completed all 12 weeks of an entire series, and I looked around and I looked to see what I would like to race, what I would like to complete an entire series doing. And it occurred to me that yes, the MX-5 is my favourite car, but I don't really want to race an entire season of the rookies. I find that fun, but a little bit chaotic. There's a lot of crashes in that. And the next stage up from that is the production challenge, and that's a race with different classes of car in it. Potentially 4 different classes of car: the Ford, the Clio, the Mazda and the Toyota. Although when I race that particular challenge, I find that there are only 2 cars. There's the MX-5 and the Toyota, which can be fun. I mean, sometimes I've raced there and it's only been MX-5s that have turned up. I mean, in the lower splits, that's how it is with that. So that could be classed as an MX-5 race, but it's a little bit too unpredictable for my liking. So what I decided to do was actually use my C-class license, which I don't actually ever really do, partly because the ability that I have isn't really C-class. I think I'm a D-class at heart, not a C-class driver. But here I am now, attempting to race an entire season in the MX-5, in the C-Class, in the advanced Mazda MX-5 Cup Series. This is 12 weeks in Season 4 of 2023, and I am going to have to buy a lot of tracks to complete this challenge, but I'm up for it. I really am. And here I am now, trying to qualify for Oulton Park, which is week 1 of Season 4. It has to be said that I haven't done particularly well so far this week. This is the best race that I could find to show you, and in this race I don't do particularly well, which will tell you that I did even worse in some of the other races during this week. Now, this might be down to a lot of different things. It might be that I'm suddenly racing drivers who are C and B and A class drivers, and so the challenge is markedly higher. It could be also that there is no fast repair in this class of race, so if the car gets damaged, you are off the track for however long it takes to repair. Now, on average, if it's been light damage, I've found that to be somewhere between 5 and 6 minutes with a 2-minute tow-in time, depending on the track, of course. And that works out to a 7-minute delay. Now, if you get that, you're effectively out of the race, or out of finishing anywhere interesting. You're going to finish last. Let's put it that way. Let's put it another way. You are going to finish last if you crash and end up in the pits. And that's okay. I mean, it's sometimes good to come out of the pits knowing that you're going to finish last and just try and put in a little bit of racing. Don't get in anybody's way. Try to hunker down behind one of the back cars and see if you can learn anything. Well, that's at least what I try to do. Now, here I am in the qualifying section of this race, and as you can see, I've got a 1:57 for lap 1, and that's okay. I think for Oulton Park, which is the international circuit, so it's got that long sweep that we just saw there, and then you come back down and there is this double chicane here, and that's always a bit tricky. Quite a few cars leave the track there. Then there's this long straight here, and then another single chicane, at the bottom before you start going up and down the hills that Oulton Park is rightly famous for. And it's a fun track. It's one of my favourites. I enjoy racing it in the MX-5. You can come a cropper quite easily, even though grass has been improved under iRacing so that it's no longer quite as slippery as it once was. If you do stick too much of your wheel on there, at high speed you will spin out and lose control. There's no doubt about it, unfortunately. But that is the name of the game. So here we are in my new challenge. This is week 1. I intend to do 12 weeks of MX-5 Mazda Cup Series to see if over 12 weeks I do improve, even though in each race I will be changing track. And there we are at the end of lap 2. It says lap 3 there, but that's the follow-on lap. And I got a 156, which is good enough to put me in place 9 on the grid, which is fine. There are 25 cars, which looks scary, really. It looks a bit like this when they set off. It's a lot of cars. It's seen from the leader's point of view. And when we come into turn 1, a lot of cars can equal quite a lot of chaos. As you see here, there's a few crashes, a few people spin out, and effectively they end their race on turn 1. Now this is a 35-minute race that we're doing here. That's a long race. Most of the rookie class races are like 10 laps, 15 laps. You know, they're 15 minutes maybe for the D class. So when you get into this race, 35 minutes can feel like a long time. So here we are on the start of the race. I am at P9 and we're waiting for the green flag to go off. It's always a bit of a heart racer, this part here. You don't want to go too slowly, and you don't want to be ramming up the backside of the car in front. You just want to be safe on that first T1 to make sure that you can finish the race. And we're off, and immediately I'm coming up beside car 4 there, 24 maybe. And yeah, I'm trying not to go too fast. The car in front of me did have a bit of a bad start and he lost a place immediately to the blue car. But yeah, look, there's 24 skidding right out. I managed to avoid him and the other car, but I lost a lot of pace doing so, and immediately cars were overtaking me straight away, and I had cars right behind me breathing down my neck. Another car going off there on the corner on cold tyres. And we're coming into the first straight here, and this is when the race begins to settle down now, and everybody's starting to think, okay, well, I didn't crash in T1, that's fine. Maybe I can make it through to the end of the race, which is really optimistic at this stage, because as I say, this is a 35-minute race. It's not a sprint race, it's not really an endurance race either, 35 minutes, but if you're used to, as I say, 10 laps or 15 minutes, a 35-minute race is a long way to go. It really is, especially when you get to the sort of towards the end of the race, and your spotter says 10 minutes to go, and you think, oh no, 10 minutes, that's such a long time. I feel like I've been racing half my life, and yet here we are still. But yeah, so I think I'm holding my own here. I'm not losing too much ground on this car in front of me. I'm not gaining on the front pack, but I'm not expecting to. That leader is going phenomenally quickly. I think he was putting in a 1:52 or 1:53, and my best lap on this track has been 1:55, so I've still got time to find. Averaging really 1:56, 1:57, as you can see from these other cars that are coming up the inside of me and finding ground. There I got intimidated by the car on the inside of me, and I missed my brake and went off a little bit. I think I got on off track there as well. This particular race I got a lot of off tracks. Part of that was to do with being pressured by cars behind, and some of it was also because I got nudged. There I got nudged by the car behind me as we came around the corner, and it took me off, but I was okay, I wasn't damaged. But look how many places I lost. Look, boom, 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 boom. It was like all these cars went past me, and effectively, although that one went straight off there, I lost an enormous amount of places, even though 2 cars got hyper excited by that and went off the track, one fatally, one not so. But still, now I'm right at the back of the pack, but it's okay. I'm still in the race. I haven't had to go into the pits. I'm potentially able to gain these places. I feel these cars in front of me don't have my pace. I'm able to catch them up if I can drive consistently. And the sun coming into my eyes. This is a feature of this particular race. We're racing late in the afternoon, and when you come down one of those straights there, you really do get the sun in your eyes, and it can blind you. I kind of felt like I needed a sun visor or sunglasses sometimes, and I generally play in VR. In case you're wondering, the strange field of view that I have on the replay is because I normally play in VR, and in virtual reality you don't really need to adjust the field of view. Now back in the race here, you can see this green car in front of me. This is one of the cars that came past me when I skidded off the track, and he doesn't have the same pace as me. He also is very aggressive on his brakes, and it's difficult to maintain a good line behind him because I can't predict what he's going to do. Unfortunately, that does really hurt me at this corner. He brakes very, very sharply. I slam into the back of him, sending him off, but another car, unrelated to us both, span in front of me. I was so busy reacting from that shunt that I slid off into the barrier, and unfortunately I got fatal damage. My spotter said, nope, that's it, you got to come into the pits. Fortunately, fortunately, count my small blessings, fortunately I wasn't too far from the pit, so I could just drive straight there and go in and get my repair started. I seem to remember it was something like 5 or 6 minutes on this repair. But unfortunately, this does mean that I am again out of the race, and all I can do is get my repairs done, go back into the race and see what I can do. If we see that accident from another point of view, you see that car really slows down right in the middle of the track, and then this other car sends me off. I nudge him, so I got 2 times 4 contacts there for my pains on that lap before I was able to go into the pits and begin my repairs. It's the way it is, you know, you get these cars sometimes that slow down very, very quickly in front of you. And what I should have done is probably had a different driving line, because I could see he was doing a lot of braking that was unpredictable. So in that situation, I should have pulled across so that my driving line was inside his, and I wouldn't be affected by his braking, or not affected quite as much. I probably still would have crashed as I got around that corner because of that spun out car. But yeah, I should have avoided that nudge there by finding a different or a better driving line. And here I am now in the pits, twiddling my thumbs, waiting for my repair to finish so that I can go back out and finish what was probably another 30 minutes of this race that was left, knowing that unfortunately the best I can do is try and get, you know, a last place, or perhaps have a battle for last place. It's not much, but I think it's better than retiring from a race. Other people feel differently. Some people just retire completely out of the race and don't bother about it. I always like to finish a race if I possibly can. If I get damaged a second time, then I will retire because there doesn't seem to be much point in coming back out to finish a race when there's no other cars out there at all. Everybody's finished and they've packed up and they're standing by the burger stall saying, well, where's Paul then? Oh, he's still going around. Well, that's just embarrassing as far as I'm concerned. So here I am back out on the track. For me, it's lap 3. I think for the other cars that have been swishing around, they're probably on like lap 6 or 7 or something like that. And I'm taking it easy now. Before I came out onto the track, I checked my relative display to make sure that all of the pack went past me. And I came out well behind the pack, but not so far behind them that the leaders would begin to lap me almost immediately. This gives me empty track to play with, and I can try and get some confidence back and build up my times again and look at really trying to find that extra time that I'm missing on this track. As I say, the lead cars are all doing 152, some are doing 150, and I'm doing 157, 156, and that's just not going to cut it. If I want to finish anywhere decent, I need to be able to improve that time. And so here I am, wibbling around the track, trying to do that, trying to find the right driving line, trying to find the right braking points, and all in the atmosphere of an actual race, which I tend to find slightly more exciting than hot laps or test laps or even AI racing. It just is more exciting. You're with actual human beings and you're taking a race, and sometimes you can listen to the radio chatter, which can also be fairly amusing, and you can see some of the other cars doing their own thing. There's another car going off into the pits, and as we go past the pits, I think there's 4 cars there sitting in the pits waiting to come out. So when you're in that situation, when there are so many cars in the pits, there is a chance that you won't come last, that you will be able to finish maybe second from last or third from last, which again isn't brilliant, but you know, you take your small mercies where you can. Here I am doing another off track there. This is because I'm pushing myself now to try and increase my lap times, and when you do that, you will have a few accidents, you will have a few off tracks, and that's fine because there's no other cars around me, and so this is really the ideal time to experiment with braking points and with acceleration points, to try and find where you can push the car to the edge without actually losing it completely. If there's no other cars around you, then you're fine. You can experiment to your heart's content, and that's pretty much what I'm doing here. Although of course the downside to that is that it will hit your safety rating, because this is an actual race and not a test lap, not an AI race, and so yeah, those off tracks will nudge down your safety rating, and you do run the risk of facing a demotion, especially when you're like me, when you're kind of only on the cusp of a C license safety rating anyway. To run it down even further is a risk. But it's racing, and racing is all about risk. It's not about playing safe. It really is about taking your car to the very edge of what you can do, and taking your own abilities to the very edge of what you think you can do, and probably a little bit beyond what you think you can do. If you want to drive safely, then buy yourself truck driving simulator or tractor simulator or something like that, and drive safely. I'm not going to criticize you, I'm not going to judge you. If that's your thing, you do it, you do you, and I'll do me. But this is me trying desperately to push my car to the limit. As you can see there, my last lap was 2 minutes and 1 second, so pushing myself to the limit has actually resulted in my slowest lap so far. But that's fine as well. When you experiment, you run the risk of running a slow lap. And as you can see also here, I've got the track to myself, which can be a little bit disheartening. I try not to think of it that way. I try to think of it as, this is great for practice, this is great for pushing the limits. But at the back of my head I keep thinking, yeah, I'm last again, which is very dispiriting. But C-Class, I'm in a different league now. I'm not racing rookies who've just started. I'm not racing D-Class in a multi-car pile-up where I'm probably going to win a race because I'm the last man standing. This is C-Class, where the standard of driving is better. I mean, I wouldn't say it's magnificently fantastic, but it is better than a lot of the iRacing that I've been in. Certainly miles better than rookie racing. I would have said it's much better than the multi-class races where you get nudged off by faster cars like the Toyotas. It's better than that. It's not super duper. There still are moments of idiocy, there are moments of frustration, but it is a good race. And even though I've come last in every single race that I've raced this week at Oulton Park in the C-Class races, I have really enjoyed it. It has been really, really good. Now I'm back at 157 again, so I'm getting my confidence back a little bit, and that basically continues throughout the race with this blinding sun in my eyes as I come around the track, trying to use as much of the track as I possibly can, trying not to brake too early, trying to make sure that I get the changes down and up in precisely the right places, and trying to be brave as I can, as brave as I possibly can, to increase that lap time. And this continued throughout the race. I got some company about halfway through with some back markers coming out. They'd crashed a little bit later than me and came back on. And I also had this little fella here comes past me. He's actually the leader. he lapped me on, I think, the second to last lap as we came round there. He was going phenomenally fast. 1:53 was his best lap time, but his average lap time was 1:54, and he led for 12 laps. So it was pretty good. It was pretty good. My average or my best lap time was 1:56. That was all I could manage. I have managed 1:55 on previous races, but my best was 1:56 on this. I did have 12 incident points on this race due to mostly going off track, and that was due to just trying to, as I said earlier, push the limits a little bit and try and find where I could increase the speed. But for this race, that didn't happen for me. I didn't see any increase in speed. 1:56 was the best I could do. But when you're facing drivers like this guy in front who could do 1:53, best time 1:54, average time, then 1:56 is just not going to cut it. You can see he's working his way through the back markers here. This is effectively the end of the race for him, but he's still wiping off a few back markers to finish just that little bit further ahead of everybody else. And in fact, I've even got another car here coming up behind me. You can see in the mirrors there, the red one. He's second place car, and eventually he also manages to come past me before the end. And as slowly we come into the final corner here, we've got two cars in front of me that lap me, just to underline the fact that I was last. I came across the line in a 1:57. We go across the results here. Now you can see I finished 18th in the race from a field of 25 cars. Technically there were about 4 or 5 cars behind me that were still running, and so I didn't technically finish last, but it did feel like I finished last. However, I did still enjoy the race. It was a lot of fun, and I learnt a lot about my driving. And I'm hoping to carry that on into the rest of this series. Next week, week 2 of the Advanced MX-5 Cup, it's the Red Bull Ring, the Grand Prix circuit. And as you can see by that little shopping cart there, I've never bought this track, so I've never raced it. So I'm going to buy it. I'm going to spend some time in the test laps. I'm going to spend some time with AI racing, and I'm going to spend some time racing actual people. And we'll see if I improve. Can I move further up the pack in this C-Class license racing? Stay tuned next week for more adventures from an older gamer's perspective. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to click the like button, and if you haven't already done so, subscribe. Click the little bell icon if you want to be notified of any future videos.